Jackie, welcome back to the Scholarship GPS podcast. So excited to have you here for your second round on the show. For those who didn't hear us the first time, would you just quickly introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Jacqueline. You can call me Jackie Pollina. I am the founder and co-owner of J&J Test Prep and No BS SAT Prep. We specialize in all things college test prep. So we're talking SAT, ACT, helping students with those standardized tests for college admission. And we offer a bunch of different programs like private tutoring, group classes, self-paced software, etc.
Fantastic. Well, you obviously covered a lot there, but one thing you didn't mention that I think we're going to actually start our conversation with is the PSAT. First of all, do you just want to say what that is, and then maybe jump into when it's offered?
Yes, absolutely. So the PSAT, students can take it starting in eighth grade, depending on if their school offers it or not. So
Okay.
students can take it in eighth grade, ninth grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade. However, there is a big difference. So the 8-9 is, like I said, for students in eighth grade and freshmen. The PSAT 10 is for students in 10th grade. And then the PSAT NMSQT, National Merit Qualifying Test, that's what we're talking about here.
Mhm.
That is for students specifically in 11th grade. So in
Okay.
most schools, the PSAT will be offered sometime in October. You can typically contact your guidance department to ask them when it's offered, or go on your school's website for the calendar. Some schools, though, do offer it in the spring, but the vast majority, you will be taking it in October.
So does that mean somebody, unlike the SAT, where you can register independently of your high school, does it have to be admitted or registered for, or how does that work? If maybe your school doesn't even offer it.
Yes, that's a great question. So most schools will offer the PSAT as part of an in-school test. So sometimes it's offered on like a Wednesday during the school week, or sometimes it's offered on a Saturday, but it's still through the school and you register through the school and take it at your home base school. So
Okay.
this is all done through the school, whereas for the SAT, you can register for it at any location on your own accord. So
Okay.
you're pretty much taking it at your school. If you're a homeschool student, that's a separate conversation, and there are specific guidelines to follow for where to take it. But assuming you are at a public or private school, you're probably taking it at your school.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Well, maybe this might be a little obvious since it's kind of in the name, but you just want to talk about what the purpose of the PSAT is?
Absolutely. So, as far as the PSAT for students in eighth grade through 10th grade, I wouldn't say there's an explicit purpose, quote unquote. There are some cases where you'll take the PSAT in eighth grade and that might help qualify you for high school admission. That's very rare, though. I have
Okay.
seen a few students in that situation. But really, the PSAT 8, 9, and 10, those are all taken really for practice and just familiarity with the test. If
Okay.
your student can take it, I wouldn't opt out. There's no reason to not take it. It's great practice, but it doesn't necessarily count for anything in the majority of cases. It's
Okay.
really the PSAT that's taken in 11th grade. That's really the big one. So
Okay.
that PSAT has, that's basically what can qualify you for a national merit scholarship, assuming that you score high enough. And that
Okay.
test format is the same as the SAT. So you may as well, take it, get prepared. It's kind of a two birds, one stone type of approach. So it's exactly the same in terms of the format and everything. And if you score high enough on it, you can get national merit recognition. And that opens up a whole bunch of options. Like many schools offer a full, merit scholarship, room
Yep.
and board. Like you can really get a lot of great tuition benefits.
Yeah. Yep. Well, you kind of said this, but I want to just make sure I understood. How similar is the PSAT to the SAT?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So the PSAT 8, 9, and 10, obviously students haven't learned the full scope of the math material, so they are a little bit different from the actual SAT. But the
Okay.
PSAT in 11th grade, that national merit one, that is identical to the SAT in terms of the content, the format, they're the same length. Everything that's tested will be exactly the same as the SAT. The only difference is that the PSAT is out of 1520, the SAT is out of 1600, but that affects nothing regarding the test taking experience. It's exactly the same.
Okay. All right. Do you find that a student's score on the PSAT is a good predictor of where maybe their first attempt on the SAT will be?
That's a wonderful question. And yes, usually within 40 to 50 points, it will accurately predict. So let's say a student scored an 1100. On an official SAT, they'd probably be between 1050 and 1150. So it mirrors it pretty closely. The only noteworthy exception I would point out here is if a student takes the PSAT in 11th grade and they just started Algebra 2, they
Mm,
probably won't know a lot of the math that's being
okay.
tested because so much of it is based in Algebra 2. So the English score will give a very accurate gauge, but the math score will probably naturally go up, 30, 40 points just from them having taken the requisite math classes.
Yeah, okay. And I do remember from our previous conversation that you said that by the time a student has taken the first semester of Algebra 2, they pretty much have been taught all the math they need to know for the SAT, right?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
correct. Yep. So the
Okay.
first half, the first semester of Algebra 2, and they're good to go as far as content.
Okay. All right. Very cool. Well, let's circle back to the National Merit Scholarship for just a second because obviously that's right up my alley. Um,
Hmm.
this is not it's not cut and dried like it is with most
No.
scholarships as to who's going to get it, right? It's a little bit of a convoluted process, if I'm being honest.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, part of it is it depends on what state you're in, right? Like,
Exactly.
yeah,
So, we work with, schools and programs, and the ones who are like, I'm based in New York. So, we, of course, have a national merit qualifying score through the roof. Like a lot of
yeah,
us
yeah,
Northeastern states have very high scores, and then other states, you can get a lower score and qualify because you're only really like being compared to student purposes. So,
yeah,
it's a bit of a convoluted process, as you said, and I wouldn't, as a parent, be so focused on the details and caught up in the weeds. Like, really, the goal as a parent should be, let me get my kid to do as well as they possibly can instead of
yeah.
precisely calculating how to qualify because it's not so cut and dry, unfortunately.
Yeah, yep. And so couple things to I want to emphasize there. So one is you are essentially only competing against students in your state, which I guess that's probably a good thing because
Hmm.
probably balances things out. But it's also not cut and dry. Like you can't say if I hit this score, I'm for sure getting this scholarship. It doesn't work that way,
Exactly.
right? So it's a sliding scale in each state, and it slides every year depending on kind of the aggregate numbers, right?
Exactly. So, we can all predict what, let's say, New York or Oklahoma, what the score will be to qualify, but we
Mhm.
can't actually know until we have the data in front of us.
Yeah, yep. And then a third kind of complication is that this is not something that every college in the country is going to roll out the red carpet for. I mean, there are some colleges where it can lead to a full tuition or a full ride scholarship, but those numbers are relatively small compared to the roughly 4,000 colleges there are in the country. So, um, this is an important test and it can lead to some really great things, but let's not put all of our eggs in one basket. I think would be a good way to approach it.
A hundred percent. Like there
Yeah.
are some schools, like Alabama is a really
Yeah.
noteworthy,
Yes.
University of Alabama is a really noteworthy one. But that's exactly what it is. You cannot submit a PSAT score for admission to a school. That you'll
Hmm.
need an SAT or an ACT. But
Yes.
I like to think of it really because the tests are the same. If you're going to do well on the PSAT, you're going to do well on the SAT, and that will be the score that gets you, some merit money and admission to whatever schools you're trying to get into.
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, it is an important test. It's something that, students I think should take. Is there anybody you would recommend against taking it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say, honestly, for students who are anticipating that they're going to be doing the ACT, we usually, in some cases, will recommend the ACT for students scoring substantially under 1,000. It's not
Okay.
even worth it if you're going to be doing the ACT. And you're not going to be scoring anywhere near the national merit qualifying range. It probably just isn't worth taking. But if
Okay.
you are a high scoring student, it really is only in your best interest to go out there and give it your best shot.
Okay. So for those students who it does make sense to take the PSAT, do you recommend test prep for it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
This is with the SAT, you can retake that multiple times,
Hmm.
technically up to 12, though I would obviously never in a million years recommend that.
Yeah.
But the
Yep.
PSAT, it really, you have the one shot. So,
Okay.
yes, if you are a student who has a good chance of getting it, you really want to do some prep and give it your best effort.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. Well, let's kind of shift the conversation then to the concept of test prep, and we'll bundle PSAT, SAT, and I guess ACT under that umbrella of test prep. But I want to approach it because people are going to be hearing this during the school year. How how do you recommend students balance preparing for SAT or ACT or PSAT along with everything else they have going on, school and sports and extracurriculars, and frankly, just trying to have a life as a teenager?
Absolutely, and that is really important. It's important that our students have a social life and have joy and pleasure, of course,
Yeah,
in their day. So my biggest piece of advice is to start early and to
yeah,
give yourself multiple chances to test. I really can't tell you, Dave, how many times, like right now, we have rising seniors reaching out and they only have August, September, October, and really probably not November, but in some cases where they're doing regular decision, they can do
mhm,
that. So
yeah,
give
yeah,
yourself a lot of opportunities to test. Don't let that be the limiting reagent to your score. It's just
mhm,
a limited number of test opportunities. So prepare in advance. If you have taken algebra 2 in your sophomore year, working over the summer is a great idea. We have a ton of students in our summer
yeah,
programs, or doing early fall is a great way to get ahead. And if you are, the parent of a student who is taking algebra 2 in junior year, get started in January so you can have March. Some school day tests are in March and April, May, June, August. Give yourself a good runway there. But in terms of balancing SAT prep with regular schoolwork, what I like to emphasize is this is a marathon, it is not a sprint. So
mhm,
doing a little bit consistently, I don't want to say every day, because doing SAT prep every single day, even though I hear parents suggest that, is honestly overkill and is not necessary. And
okay,
it's going to lead to burnout. So
yeah, okay,
5 days a week, spend 30 to 45 minutes doing things. The good thing about the new digital SAT is it's a really short test. It's two
hmm,
hours and 14 minutes. And you can go on the Blue Book app, which is where they have practice tests for the SAT, and you can just do English. That's what we do when our students are in a time crunch. Spend like an hour and 5 minutes just doing English. Pause
okay,
it, do math the next time, an hour and 5 minutes or whatever it amounts to.
hmm,
It's really easy to break it up into bite-sized pieces as well. On our digital SAT platform, No BS SAT Prep, everything is broken into bite-sized drills and quizzes. So
okay,
these are the kinds of things that you can do a little bit of every day, and that will count so much more than just cramming. This is not a school test. This is not a unit test.
hmm,
This is an aggregate of everything that students have learned from middle school to present. So it's
yeah,
something that's best done over time in bite-sized pieces.
yeah. It's kind of like a course final on steroids, right? It's like
Yeah,
the course final
exactly.
for about 5 or 6 years of school. So yeah, yep. I think one of the things that parents may not be aware of is that the SAT has changed in the past couple years. Do you just want to talk about that, and maybe does that fit into the model for test prep?
Absolutely. So the SAT started its overhaul where it went completely digital. Previously, it was only offered on paper. Now it's only offered on a computer. It started with the PSAT in October of 2023, and then they rolled it out officially with the SAT in March of 2024. So, with regards to the major differences with the old test and the new test, first and foremost, probably much to the delight of students, is it's significantly shorter. I
Hmm.
believe I calculated it was like 22 or 23% shorter, which when
Okay.
you're stressed on test day is lovely to get out of
Sure.
there by like
Yeah.
10:30 or 11 a.m. instead
Yeah.
of 12 or 1.
Yep.
So that's always a good thing. Second thing is all of the reading passages are now bite-sized. So can
Okay.
I actually say why they did that, or if they were trying to catch up with today's teens and maybe short attention spans? No, but it really lends itself, like we were saying, to doing more consistent bite-sized pieces, because before you'd have to read an 80-line passage and answer 11 questions. Now it's
Mhm.
one little passage of maybe 10 to 15 lines, one question.
Okay.
So shorter reading passages. They've reintroduced vocabulary, which that's
Okay.
probably not going to make our teens very happy, but
Yeah.
it's always a good thing to know. And that's why we always suggest reading for
Yeah.
pleasure. That's a
Yes.
good thing.
Yep.
And what they've changed about the math, the content is exactly the same. Nothing has changed over there. But they have introduced Desmos, which is the fancy name of the graphing calculator
Yep.
on the SAT. So learning how to use Desmos efficiently, how to use it to, bypass doing things by hand is super helpful. So they've changed, a few things with the interface, the length, and the tools that are accessible to students. But at the end of the day, they're testing math, grammar, reading, and now they've added vocab. So the content, more or less, really is the same.
Yeah. Yep. My ears perked up when you talked about just reading for pleasure. Um,
Mhm.
I have heard that from so many other, other SAT prep folks, college admissions people, and it's kind of something I'm emphasizing this year. I'm working with my juniors to help them prepare for a full ride scholarship, and to do that, we're doing a book club on Calvin Coolidge because it's the Coolidge Scholarship, and part of the way to win that is to be pretty conversant in knowing who he was, what his ideas were, and so forth. So, yeah, I mean, I just want to reiterate that message. Encourage your kids to read, and you can model that as a parent by reading yourself, right?
Absolutely. And, I would really, really, I want to emphasize that again, in that, when we get a student who's starting at like a 680 or 720 on the English, when I ask mom on the phone, does your teen read for fun, or did they at least read for fun growing
Mhm.
up? The answer 9 out of 10 times is yes.
Yeah,
And when the verbal is very weak, of course, there could be schooling deficiencies, but it usually is the case that instead we're on TikTok or wherever else and not
yeah.
reading. You just naturally pick up on these skills. Reading comprehension is a long game. It's not like grammar or math that you could learn the skills quickly. So,
Hmm.
starting early with reading for pleasure, getting into the habit, building that vocabulary is totally the way to go.
Yeah, fantastic. I love hearing that. Anything else that you wanted to mention before we wrap things up?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, as far as the season that we're going into right now, it's really important to realize for rising juniors, this is a wonderful time to test if you have Algebra 2. This is SAT season.
Yep.
The
Okay.
College Board has recently added a September SAT for the first time ever. They're rolling it out this year on the 13th. So that gives students August, September, October, November, December, and then it breaks until March. So if you already have Algebra 2, this is, go time. This is the time
Yeah.
to get it out of the way before junior year gets crazy and AP exams and admissions essays and scholarship essays start to pick up and have to become more of the priority. So if you're doing SAT prep, you may as well take the PSAT. They go hand in
Sure.
hand and just kind of knock everything out this fall semester.
I love that great advice. And you mentioning that again reminded me I wanted to bring something up when you said I think you said one of the things you recommend would be like 30 minutes for 5 days a week, right?
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah, yep. So I have very similar advice around how much time to put in for scholarships, and it's going to vary from student to student, of course. But I mean, it just seems like would flow so naturally for a student who has had Algebra 2 and they're used to spending 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week preparing for that, once they get that done and they hit that score they want, they can take that 30 minutes a day that used to be for SAT prep and now they can plug in applying for scholarships. So, I mean,
Exactly.
yeah, yep. And by what you said earlier, starting the whole process earlier, kind of reverse engineering, planning, and not waiting to the last minute. Um, you're gonna have higher test scores. You're gonna have more opportunity to earn scholarships. So, yeah, yep, great advice. Um, Jackie, thank you so much. We're gonna put a link to your website for people who would like to work with you. But do you just want to remind people of your business and anything else like that?
Yes, absolutely. So, as far as upcoming options for anybody who wants to work with us, we always have private tutoring. That's a year-round thing. We also have our SAT intensive. We have one for the September test, which actually will start this evening at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, August 13th. We will have an October one as well as a November/December hybrid class. And in addition to that, we will have our PSAT intensive. So for anyone who's looking to get in, it's, a short class, it's 8 hours. So 2 hours a week for 4 Sundays leading into October. For anyone who's trying to get PSAT prep, get your feet wet with the test format, we can definitely help you with that. And, we'll give all the links for that.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, Jackie, thank you so much for coming back. Of course, want to have you back again in the future and very much appreciate your time and your wisdom on this.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Dave. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks.